Hello and welcome to the World of Football show here on Sports Tonight Live. I'm Mina Rzouki and I'm joined by my co-host Gabriele Marcotti. And what a weekend it's been. We now know who the champions of Italy are. We've seen Madrid finish in style and still finishing in style. And then we've got Germany, Bundesliga champions crowned. This is the weekend to watch football, or rather it was the weekend to watch football. But we have to speak about Juventus because they are now the Scudetto winners, and could it have been done in a more exciting manner?
Well, yeah, they could have not taken an early lead and left it down to the very end, and could have been slightly more exciting.
Do you not think it was the most amazing advertisement for Italian football on the night?
What,
2 games.
The fact that they had to play Cagliari away in Trieste?
Well,
no. It was.
Listen, I'm really sorry, but Cagliari put up a fight. They played.
Oh no,
They certainly didn't roll over or anything like that.
No question about that. No, I mean, I think Juve's whole season have been, in some ways, to me, a blueprint of how to do things properly. And I don't say it so much at club level because I think Beppe Marotta made some big mistakes in the summer. One of them, Algero Elia, another one, hanging on to Milos Krasic. But the way the players responded, the way they came together, the way people accepted the manager's decision, and above all the manager, Antonio Conte, who, as you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of.
Yes,
neither him nor his hair implants. But he did it.
There has to be a little dig, whether it's the hair implants or something.
You
just won't let it go. You just won't let it go.
It's still Conte. But a tremendous season. And hopefully something that can sort of inspire other clubs to do things properly.
Yes, but do you think this is... Because for me, this is probably 90%, 80% Conte Scudetto. I mean, the man who hasn't only studied tactics, but who studies, physiology, psychology, communication, the way that he's, explained his ideals to the team to get them motivated for the entire season, to make sure that he's prepared a great preseason in which they didn't suffer very many injuries. And then, you see the likes of Milan, who were very worthy, runners-up, but suffered such an unbelievable amount of injuries.
On the injury front, there's no question. Conte was the first to admit it, that Juve were helped tremendously by the fact that most guys stayed fit for most of the season. And he'll also tell you that it was made a lot easier by the fact that Juve weren't in European competition.
Yes.
Having a whole week, basically, to prepare every game allows you to do much more coaching as a manager. And, of course, you need to have a good coach to benefit from it. And certainly in Conte and also his assistant, Angelo Alessio, they obviously have that. Next season will present a wholly different set of challenges. But for this year, I mean, you just have to take your hat off to them. Just also because, man for man, I mean, this is an outstanding midfield. I struggle. I challenge anybody out there to find more than 3 clubs in Europe, or 4 clubs, who've got a better midfield trio than Juve's 3.
I mean, it is literally the heart and soul of that.
The goalkeeper, back to his best this season, one of the best around. The defenders worked very well, especially once he moved to 3-5-2. The strikers did a job, but I think even...
But I think that's what's so brilliant, is the fact that they didn't, in the end, need, a champion up top, because the team was the champion.
They didn't, but I think, again, Conte would probably admit, and the club has pretty much said that.
You could have benefited from definitely having a striker that can actually finish the many chances that they've created.
Exactly, because the reality is Milan dropped off because of the injuries.
Yes.
Against a better Milan side, or Milan where people were fit and scoring, you would have needed that additional guy to convert the chances.
Especially against the smaller teams like Lecce. But I just want to note that, Vidal is the best tackler in Europe, more shots per game on average than any other team in Europe. I do, because I think it's so important to note that. And the lowest amount of goals conceded in Europe. I mean, what a season for them. But we've got Tancredi Palmieri with us from Milan. Ciao, Tancredi, how are you?
Buongiorno, Mina. For sure, I'm not good as you are.
No, for sure you're not as good as me. I cried for 48 hours after that win.
48 hours?
48
so you are
hours.
hosting with sunglasses, I believe.
Well, mostly because I had their champions video on loop, on Juventus.com. Anyway, this is not what I want to talk. I also want to talk about how wonderful Inter were in the Milan derby. That Maicon goal, the controversial decisions. Stramaccioni, do you like him now?
Who?
Stramaccioni.
Oh, Stramaccioni.
Yeah, him, Stramaccioni.
Well, I must say that the guy is extremely clever. More than in the game, in the derby, where actually he picked the only possible good tactic and lineup to win the derby when in the same time everyone around was pointing and pushing for Sarate on the pitch. That honestly, Sarate, what you can expect from him. But I must say he is very clever, especially in the press conference. Something like, I would say, being beside the senators, beside the Cambiasos, beside Moratti, but not showing like it would be, oh, come on, it's just the guys of the senators. So for sure, he got blamed for that. Even if still, if Inter wants to make a change next summer, what is needed is that the manager or a manager that in a way, all in all, would stamp his feet saying, okay, there is this kind of players, this kind of elements in the lineup that really we had to substitute. And I'm talking about the Cambiasos, I'm talking about the Kivus or the other ones that honestly you can't really pretend to go in the future with someone like that.
Tancredi, though, I agree with you. There's massive surgery that needs to be done at Inter. Massive surgery costs a lot of money. Inter, to continue the metaphor, don't have any adequate health insurance here. If they go and get another manager, he's going to want a senior manager. He's going to want money. He's going to want to have his say and so on. I mean, as I see it, the reason Stramaccioni is likely to stay is because he's cheap, and you can make him work with what he has. You know, remember, you mentioned Kivu there. This is the guy who started Kivu in his first game. Kivu was Inter's left back.
Well, Gabba, the first reason why he's staying, I know it's strange to say, but it is winning 4-2 the derby against Milan. Now, you can't imagine how much important is in Moratti's brain winning the derby.
Although he said that was not the reason.
Moratti says lots of things, Mina. I mean, I would honestly.
But I don't honestly think that that's why he's getting the job.
It's because the reasons are the reason I said. He's cheap and he's there.
And he knows the youth team. He can actually start promoting one of, I think, probably the best youth team in Italy.
Well, but you know, it would be like this.
Yeah. The next
it would bring some other youngsters in the squad. And actually, in these 8 games, we have seen almost 0 youngsters, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe just once, but almost 0 youngsters. I will see if in the summer something is changing. But Stramaccioni knows that if he wants to stay there, now he's already done the deal, I mean the decision, but if he wants to stay there, he had to achieve some result, if not all the result, please Moratti's taste, but also please in some way the lockers. Pleasing the lockers means having the acceptance of Zanetti and Cambiasso as first, then the Argentinians and the others. If he would come there and saying, okay, first decision, youngsters in, old ones out, honestly, he would stay just clinching the third spot. That was almost impossible as it is.
Tancredi, moving on to something less depressing than Inter right now. You could make the argument, if you were a big Milan fan, perhaps if you were Tiziano Crudeli, you might say, what derby win are we talking about when, you know, obviously the referee had a horrible game. Samuel should have been sent off for Robinho. The first penalty was absurd. But as a neutral, though, you might find that in reality, despite all these refereeing mistakes, it was just a riveting, exciting game with a lot of great technique out there. I'm thinking of Ibra's goal, and also that ridiculous shot from Sneijder, which almost went in from the halfway line.
Goal.
I mean, it was fantastic. And of course, Maicon's goal.
Well, I must say that it's a pity because Nicola Rizzoli, in my opinion, he is, so far at least, or he was the best referee that Italy has in this moment. And as far as are my sources, one of the most candidates until last Sunday to referee the Champions League final. Also, he will be the only Italian referee at Euro 2012. And in style, even if not skilled in the same way, in style is the only one that is closer to Pierluigi Collina, and not only because he's coming from the same school of referee, exactly the same one in Bologna, where Collina was raised, with the same masters and teachers.
Oh my God,
so it's
talk about love for Rizzoli.
Yeah, let's move on from Rizzoli.
I want to discuss the 4th penalty that maybe no one saw in the San Siro, but we've actually got footage of it.
That is something that is going to create a lot of controversial because, you know, I want
no,
to...
this is... I'm talking about your penalty, Tancredi.
gonna create a lot of controversy, Mina.
let's have a look at your penalty in the San Siro. This is Tancredi. Come on, well, I can barely see you on this pitch. And there you are, and it's ballooned over the bar. What is this? Let's have a...
Should we tell you two things, Mina? First of all, I was shooting that without shoes, as we were doing when we were kids on the pitch.
Oh, you sound a lot like Pellegrino now. Excuses, excuses.
I think we need to see this again.
Two things. Yesterday, my phone was busy because Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo called me, tell me, we know how do you feel this year. And third of all, I want to remind that Jose Mourinho said only people with bollocks can take penalties. Doesn't matter if they miss it. Just remind this.
We're going to take another look at this in slow motion now, Tancredi, because frankly, I had the impression that the keeper guesses the right way, but here you see your body goes back, and that's why you can't keep the shot down.
That's because the Barcelona tactic wetting the grass before the game, you know. It's all about mind games. But the point is, what is the point in scoring in the low corner just with a smooth shoot? Or you do in a grosso way, up in the high corner, or otherwise there is no point. That challenge for the hard challenge, otherwise for what we are here in life.
Okay, Tancredi, that's enough about you. Let's talk about a slightly more successful center forward. Just quickly here, because sort of the news of the day, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, talk of another stomach ache, talking about the team becoming better and so on. Galliani shutting him up by saying, oh no, we don't need any more superstars. We already have two of the biggest in Ibrahimovic and Thiago Silva, which to me makes zero sense because Thiago Silva's been injured and of course rumored to be moving on. And Ibrahimovic himself, well, he will be one of the superstars wherever he goes.
Well, yes, first and second to explain why this happened. These big stars, the foreign big stars, they don't talk about these things with Italian or anyway local press. So it was the Swedish journalists that are always covering Ibrahimovic. When almost the mixed zone of San Siro was almost empty, that catch this that are an earthquake in Milan, these Ibrahimovic quotes. He said, I came here because there was a project of a great Milan. Now, I don't know what they want to make with this project. He also said, I'm not saying that I'm not going to respect my contract, but I want to see what is going to happen this summer. Now, keeping these quotes, knowing that he's under Mino Raiola agent, and knowing that for sure Real Madrid is going to search for one forward, one number 9, something like that. I'm not saying that something for sure is going to happen, but you know, we say in Italy that when there are thunders, then is coming the rain. So I don't think that it's just some alarm and then it's already...
I think this is going to go on all summer long.
But do you think that, you know what, but it kind of would make sense if he goes to Real Madrid. Do you think there's any possibility of that happening, Gab?
I think there's more than the possibility of that happening.
Because to me, it makes sense that he would go there.
And
for anything, to stick it to Barcelona, to prove he can make it in the Spanish league, and to win, to make more money. Why not?
Question is, Ibra and Ronaldo on the same pitch.
Oh, come on,
That'd
isn't
fantastic.
that an ego-filled room?
I
I'd
know.
love to be
I'm not saying that he's going to Real Madrid, but for sure, you know, he's now playing the level like saying,
he's using, but look, this is the reason why it's generally a bad idea to sign this guy, because now he's using it as leverage over Milan. We're going to move on now to slightly, slightly more ridiculous events. Last Wednesday, Fiorentina, Delio Rossi, he substitutes Adam Laic. Words are exchanged between the two. And Rossi just jumps out and attacks him. Rossi has since apologized. He's since been sacked from the club, banned for 3 games, received a lot of support from the ultras, a lot of support from managers and players who said, you don't know the number of times I wanted to do that to one of my players. He doesn't have this kind of reputation at all.
You have to feel sorry for him.
Yeah, Mina says you have to feel sorry for him. Are you as kind as Mina?
Well, I want to say that not everything in life, and especially in situations, it's white or black. So maybe, if I look at that, it's Laic made a mistake, Rossi made even a bigger mistake. That doesn't make that they both are one a violent person and the other just a silly player. As far as I know, Laic is a very calm guy and even shy. Delio Rossi, everybody knows that he's a kind of a gentleman. So there are, you know, when one mistake is taking another, then there are situations that are just blowing out. All in all, when something like that is happening, it's hard for a club, and more for a club like Fiorentina that made fair play as a badge on their shirt. It's very hard to keep the man on the bench. Still, he's not violent. Yes, Delio. No, yes, Delio. I agree with you. He's not violent, and Liaic is not that kind of guy that is like, you know, winding up the managers. It's not the Ibrahimovic or anyway someone provocative. But in this Fiorentina situation where the pressure is boiling over everyone, it can happen. They are human beings.
The thing is, it can happen. It was definitely a mistake. And now, of course, Italy's or Serie A has lost an important coach. But we're going to have to say bye to you now, Tancredi, simply because I think you need to practice your penalties. So we're going to leave you to do that.
Thank you,
Tancredi. I want to see
what
you will be able to
do. More than that, trust me. And now, of course, I want to discuss...
Unresolved business.
Unresolved business. What happened to Napoli? It was so frustrating to watch that match against Bologna. Firstly, because I want to say to you, Stefano Pioli, okay? Secondly, I want to say classic Mazzari. What, on the 56th minute, he decides to go gung-ho, leave spaces in the back. Really? You want to make all your attacking changes so early in the game and just gamble like that when you're chasing third and you have a good shot of making it?
Yeah, it was bizarre because it's not as if they were playing bad. I can understand the gamble. But they were playing very well. They created so many chances. They could have been 4 or 5-1 up in the first half easily. And no, it's they threw it away. I'm sure De Laurentiis.
But how much do you blame Mazzari for this?
You have to blame Mazzari. He's the manager. I mean, we praise him when he does well. I mean,
but is he really this great coach that deserves to be at a top team?
You know,
I'm sorry, because for me, I think he gets his tactics wrong too often.
Pep Guardiola bought Ibrahimovic. I mean,
no, that's different. That's a transfer market thing. People make
Pep Guardiola obsessed with weirdo lineups and formations and playing 9 midfielders. I mean, you know, stuff happens. People make mistakes. I think on the day, he definitely got it wrong and it cost him. But the upshot of this, of course, is Udinese somehow win, despite the fact that everybody's injured.
Not anymore. They've reclaimed a lot of their people back now.
But the good ones, Armero, Isla, you know, it's remarkable. And I'm assuming you agree with me that there's no way Udinese can mess up third place.
I don't know. Wow. You really don't know. This has been a crazy season in Serie A. Everything has happened.
It certainly has. The one thing that we know, of course, is Roma won't be able to make the top 3 this season. The reason I point this out is because today, of course, is Luis Enrique's birthday, and so the club decided they won't talk about Luis Enrique today.
Oh, what a gesture.
It's very nice.
So
but 4 or 5 days, the dude's going to have to make a decision on his future.
Yeah.
And I think Roma will too.
He should be given a little more time, but he should also adapt tactically perhaps a little bit more. His fascination with playing un-Italian-like football sort of grates me a little.
That's why he was hired. That's the whole point. And I suggest we also give a shout-out to Cesena and Novara, who are going down, but are going down fighting.
Yes, well done. Of course, Cesena is my little second team. But that's all we have time for in Italy, which is a shame. But congratulations to Juventus. We'll be back after the break to discuss Spain. See you then.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on the World Football Show. Hey, how about some Liga, Mina? You excited?
Yes, of course.
You pumped?
I'm excited.
Well, we have champions, Real Madrid, of course. I think so much has been said about Real Madrid and Barcelona and Messi and Cristiano, and we're going to be getting into all that in a few minutes with Kieran Canning. But I wanted to ask you, Jose Mourinho, according to people close to him who speak to him often, has been offered a 4-year deal at Real Madrid. He had a deal which went through 2014. Now he's got a new 4-year contract, presumably with a hefty pay rise, which locks him down until 2016. I'm just wondering. I mean, I've never managed a football club. I'm assuming you haven't either. But
how'd you know?
I am a bit jealous about this because it seems that keep giving out contract. I mean, the guy's under contract. He's already the highest paid manager in the world.
Why more?
Yeah, is this a way of locking him up against him moving? Is it a way of saying thank you, Mourinho, for delivering the league title?
I think it's two things. I do think it's that. I do think it's the fact that they defeated Barcelona. They've interrupted their winning cycle, and they've thought now that, you know, Barcelona is going through a change that possibly Mourinho can take them through. But I also think it's because of the interest in Mourinho from the other leagues at the moment. There are so many clubs looking for a manager.
Are there really, you think?
Well, the thing is there's definitely interest in Mourinho. There's always going to be interest in Mourinho.
But I mean, realistic interest for a job that he would take, which would be as attractive as what he has at Real Madrid.
Probably not as attractive as Real Madrid.
How many clubs would be as attractive, do you think, to Mourinho
right
now, right, and have job openings right now?
Probably none, to be very honest, because the only thing that I would think that he would want would be to go to Manchester City.
Where he could spend a lot of money.
Exactly, and that's, you know, it's like a return to the Premier League, which he just thinks is the best thing in the world. I can't see him ever going back to Italy. And who would he coach in Italy? I mean, I guess there's always Milan if he wanted to. That's just never going to happen. So, but it is a way of rewarding him, and it's a way of keeping others away by having that that clause in the contract. That means that they'd have to get paid if anyone wants to poach him.
But what I don't understand is, what other business do you get rewarded? Well, except for banking, do you get rewarded in that way for?
Wow, you got rewarded.
No, but for basically doing your job. I mean, I give you a 2-year deal. In 2 years, you win a Copa del Rey.
But he's not just doing his job. He's not doing...
You think he's surpassed expectations? You think he's surpassed his squad expectations? He's surpassed his salary expectations?
Yeah, I think he did a tremendous job. I mean, few do what Mourinho's done. And the way that he's won the league this year, they've been fantastic. They're probably going to break their records, you know, make it 100 points. They've beaten Barcelona, they've taken the league, they came very close to the Champions League had it not been for the penalties. For them, they're probably thinking that they didn't expect, you know, Madrid always expect to win, but I think that they were just happy that it's come now and not for another 2 or 3 years when the squad was ready, considering their age and considering the fact that they've already been put together not that long ago.
Well, this is a team that did finish second in
Yeah,
in the
I
Liga
understand, but it's so, how many teams can surpass Barcelona at this stage? And let's not mention Chelsea.
No, but I'm saying Pellegrini took him to second place in the league,
everyone
right?
will always take them to second place, but second place to first place is the hardest thing.
But that's why he's getting the big bucks. He's the highest paid manager in the world. That's why they gave him a 4-year deal. They didn't give him a 2-year deal and then say, I mean, take your point, if they'd given him 2 years and then they'd said at the end of 2012, like, oh, look, you won the league. Okay, here's a big wad of money. Let's extend your deal. I don't know. It seems to me that managers complain all the time about the pressure.
So what do you think it is?
I think it's this sort of groupthink that exists in football where we put managers on a pedestal. I mean, to me, he may well be the best manager in the world, but he's already being rewarded for that by being the highest paid manager in the world.
So why make him even more?
Why give him even more? Especially because, you know, you talk to him, money doesn't really matter to him.
Really? Well, money doesn't matter to him.
So he says, but...
That's like fashion doesn't matter to me.
Exactly. By the way, we're joined by Kieran Canning. Kieran, we were just talking about Mourinho there. I don't know if you heard the end of that. I'd love to get your take on it. This new 4-year deal, which would take him through to 2016 if he sees it out. What do you make of this? Is this relevant, or is it maybe just a way of making sure that if somebody comes along and poaches Mourinho, they have to put an absolute mountain of euros on the table?
Yeah, I think that I would be very surprised if he stayed here until 2016. I heard you talking just for a couple of minutes there, and I think his mind was decided to stay just for 1 more year at least after they went out of the Champions League, because I think that when you talk about where else can you go with the same resources, with the same level of squad, I think there are very few places, and also I think that he knows that if he can win Real Madrid their 10th European Cup, I mean that will put him in absolutely legendary status. To this stage, he's probably achieved his goal in that he's sort of incrementally improved the team. That last year they won the Copa del Rey, they got to the semi-finals of the Champions League for the first time in a number of years. This year they've managed to win the league, and definitely the next target is to win the Champions League. So I think that I would be surprised if he stays to 2016. But yeah, it's a sort of insurance policy by Real Madrid to ensure that they would get a lot of money from if he were to move on.
Kieran, after Germany, Italy, Belgium, Finland, now Spain has its own rumors of match fixing related to, well, some of it possibly related to betting, some of it possibly related just to staying up. Without libeling anybody, can you give us a brief summary of what's going on and how the Spanish authorities are dealing with it?
Yeah, well, there was a report sort of this time last week when Sporting Gijón went, and they were one of the teams, one of the bottom two sides, went 1-3-0 at Espanyol, which was a strange result, but given the inconsistency of the Spanish league, nothing too extraordinary. But a report was leaked that apparently that match was being investigated for match fixing, and drew the normal response you'd expect from Espanyol, that this was a disgrace and a slander against their character. There hasn't been any more sort of developments on that. They claim the match is still under investigation, but this weekend in the Granada against the Real Madrid match, prior to the game, the Granada chairman was claiming that Zaragoza, who are another team in the relegation fight, recent great run of form, having looked completely out of it, was suspicious, and their chairman, as he described, Agapito Iglesias, people with funny surnames, he was suspicious of. Then after the game, which Real Madrid won 2-1 with two late goals, one a penalty and one an own goal, the Granada players completely lost it. They had two players sent off for arguing with the referee at the final whistle, Moises Hurtado and Guilherme Siqueira, and also another one of the players, Dani Benitez. He threw a sports drink that hit the referee in the face. Now, to me, and the reaction from the Granada players and staff has been quite frankly ridiculous. The reason they lost the game was they conceded a ridiculous penalty, which there was no doubt was penalty. It was closer to a rugby tackle than a challenge from Ronaldo inside the box, and then a stupid own goal. So, but the sort of conspiracy and everyone's out to get us mentality has continued, and particularly what they've picked on is that the referee in question, Carlos Gomez, is from Zaragoza, and they were attacking the federation, saying, how can you put a referee from Zaragoza
but
in charge of it?
Surely, Kieran, that they have a point in that sense. I mean, there's been a lot of, in my opinion, quite a bit of stupidity from the federation, the Spanish federation, and the referees as well. Why would you put a Zaragoza referee there? Why would you put a Clásico in between the Champions League? There's been some weird decisions, from what I understand, there was a report in AS magazine, in AS newspaper by the vice president, who said that there was matches up for sale. These things make it look very, very strange. Is it just their stupidity, or is there something more to this?
I think, unfortunately, in Spain, these things come up at the end of every season. There's been quite a few sort of match-fixing allegations, particularly actually in the Segunda division for teams looking to get promoted towards the end of the season. I agree with you that the appointment of this referee, Carlos Gomez, who has been quite a controversial referee all season, and most controversially of all, he suspended the game.
He was the one that was hit by an umbrella, or his
But he wasn't hit, it was the linesman that was hit by the umbrella. He decided to suspend the game, which I suppose is fair enough given the circumstances, but it kind of went down quite badly in Granada because they were leading the game 2-1 at the time, and when they restarted the game, they didn't replay the game, they just played what had to be, what was left of the match. They only drew 2-2. So I think, yeah, to appoint him particularly to this game was a bit strange. But the thing that I don't really get is that it's not as if Granada were fighting just against Zaragoza for relegation. Sporting Gijón are still involved, Villarreal are still involved, Rayo Vallecano are still involved. So does that mean that you can't appoint referees from the Valencia Comunidad and Madrid and?
But it is fishy with Zaragoza winning 8 of their last 10, having had such a terrible season.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I suppose it's one of those things that you can either describe it as fishy or just that. So we've seen so many teams in the Spanish league this year be terrible for long stretches and then put a run together. Like, for example, Mallorca, who were fighting relegation just a few weeks ago, now look set to qualify for the Europa League just because they've won 5 and 6. And it's such an inconsistent league that all you need to do is put a decent run of form together. For example, Malaga as well are probably going to qualify for the Champions League just because they put a stretch of 2 months together consistently. So I think that there is those other examples, maybe sort of like the idea that there's something fishy going on, but
Kieran,
I don't really know. I don't have enough evidence to prove anything.
Kieran, sorry, we need to wrap up, but I'd like your answer in 30 seconds. Big news, Valencia, the traditional third force in recent years in Spain, new manager, Mauricio Pellegrino, course, former player, disciple of Rafa Benitez, or so says Rafa, in 30 seconds or less. Good appointment, and what does the future hold?
I think there's been quite a bit of surprise at the appointment because he doesn't have a lot of managerial experience. He's been number 2 to Benitez, as you said, and but I think they've gone down the road of appointing a kind of club legend rather than someone with a proven pedigree. The surprise has been that there were other good candidates available in the league, like Jose Ramon Sandoval at Rayo, Luis Garcia at Getafe, who were both kind of tipped for the job. So some surprise to that point of view, but I think we just have to wait and see whether it's one of those appointments that works.
Thanks so much, Kieran Canning. Well, Mina, it could well be a trend across Europe. Of course, Luis Enrique, maybe Stramaccioni, Tito Villanova. Appoint the young guy with little experience but lots of enthusiasm. We'll be back in a bit. We're back, and I'm sure you missed us very much. Now, time to head over to Germany, where, of course, the league is settled. All hail Borussia Dortmund. And, of course, Bayern, not too bad, huh?
No, not
in
too
the Champions
shabby.
League final. And, of course...
Great stats. Sorry, I was talking of stats. Great stats by Bayern. Possession, passing accuracy, second best in Europe.
Would you spend, like, the hour before the show on a statistical website?
No, this was yesterday. Oh. I spent a good 2 hours. WhoScored.com reading every stat that I could find.
But let's, and of course, we've got this huge cup final to turn to between Bayern and Borussia Dortmund, which is next Saturday night, and I believe it's live in the UK, in fact. But a lot of stuff, also Cologne going down, some very funny stuff from their fans too.
What I heard that they actually mobbed the captains, Cologne's captains, home and were demanding answers and sort of explaining why they were so angry and they were all drunk. And it's so strange because I think that all this madness only ever seems to happen in Italy.
But it doesn't.
And maybe
it happens wherever you have passionate fans.
It really does happen everywhere. I mean, I thought that was the story is something to discuss. I really don't. It's been such a badly run club. And you can understand, and I almost sympathise with the supporters, with the way that it's been handled, with the fact that they backed probably the wrong horse going in by sticking by their coach and then sacking him 4 games to go. What do you think, they deserve to go down?
Frankly, yeah. I mean, I think decisions have consequences, and I don't know that they showed this season that they're any more deserving to stay up than some of the others. But we're joined by James Thorogood from Bundesliga.com, one of our favorite Skypers. James, I want to start with one of the banners I thought was hilarious. Of course, Lukas Podolski leaving to join Arsenal, and the fans putting up this banner which basically read, "Farewell, Poldy. If we could, we'd leave too."
Yeah, it hasn't been a good end of the season for Köln. Really, the second half of the season has been terrible. Their form has completely slumped. And there's been no real sign of a fight back. And as Mina mentioned, a couple of the off-field problems there with Solbakken leaving. There was another incident with the fans where after a match they were rather disgruntled and they ended up stopping the team bus at a petrol station and confronting the players and the manager. And so really it's just hasn't been a good season. Köln are always a bit of a messy club. It's kind of what they've been known for recently. This is their 3rd relegation in the last 14 years. And as you mentioned, Podolski leaving was a big part of that because it was almost such common knowledge that it was almost 90% certain he was going to go, that it obviously had an effect on the morale of the team and then the off-field problems coupling with that. It was just all a bad mix. And it was interesting, the similarities between Köln and Hertha, who were the 2 teams that were battling it out. Hertha had obviously let go of Marcus Babbel because Prietz's ego was hurt. And you almost felt that the consequence of them doing that might mean they were relegated. And it was almost the lesser of 2 evils in the end when Köln went down. And I do think it might potentially be a good thing for them. They need a bit of a facelift as a club. Podolski leaving takes away the cult hero in the squad that feels like he's entitled to every chance. And obviously he had contributed to 60% of their, or over 60% of their goals this season. And he will be a big loss, but it could be a positive thing. You mentioned the Cologne fans after the match, they were letting off smoke bombs and, you know, rumours that they were setting the stadium on fire as well. So really just a whole mix of terrible things for a club who are now going to go down into the Bundesliga too. But as I say, it could be a good thing if they manage to revamp themselves.
You mentioned Podolski there, and also for the benefit of some of the Arsenal fans who might be watching us, I'd love to get your take, because he strikes me as somebody who people either really like as a player or don't. I'm in the camp of people who don't like him. He just seems... Well, no, I'm sorry, Mina. I mean, he kind of had like a meltdown when he went to Bayern Munich,
Yes.
And of course, you know, 3 years ago, he scored 2 goals all season long. He did score last year, and he scored this year. Which is the real Podolski? What player are they getting? How can they be sure that they're not getting the homesick, slightly insane little boy who was so unhappy in the Zabenerstrasse?
But he was, sorry, I'm not going to stick up for him, but during the time he was Bayern Munich, he was young, and it was, you know, they were going through like...
I think he was 12. He was what, 21, 22?
Yeah, exactly, early 20s. And I mean, yes, that worked against him, and obviously you had the likes of Miroslav Klose and Luka Toni who were in their prime at that point that were ahead of him. So he had things working against him, and a lot of people were maybe expecting Podolski to play through that at Bayern. He didn't quite manage to do that. But I am a fan of his explosiveness. I don't know whether I like him as a player, but I like his explosiveness on the pitch. And if you look at his record this season, it's his first really good domestic campaign in a while. He's done all right for Cologne in the past, but this year he's been, you know, in phenomenal form, 18 goals, 7 assists. I think if I'm right, he's scored somewhere close to 10 goals on the counter-attack, which if you then think about Arsenal's style of play, could fit perfectly with them. And, you know, I think he's a fantastic replacement for a player like Arshavin, who did nothing this season until he left the club. And so I personally am backing him to do well in London. I think it might take a bit of time for him to settle in, but when you compare him or Marco Marin at Chelsea, Podolski's going to be far the better player in London.
I don't see really Arsenal being a counter-attacking side in the way that Spurs are. So really, is he the right choice for them in that sense? You're sure that you think that he can provide an edge to them, a vertical?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you mean?
I think so, because he'll operate, I would imagine, on the left wing, hopefully alongside Van Persie. Obviously, that's a big if right now. And if necessary, if Van Persie were to leave, obviously Podolski can easily slot through the middle as well. But I think he's more likely to fit out on the left, and I do think he will add, as I say, that little bit of explosiveness that sometimes, you know, Arsenal lack with a clinical edge. And Podolski has a great eye for goal. His left foot is a magic wand at times, sometimes, and so he's definitely one to watch. As I say, it'll take him a bit of time to settle, but I think he's in for a good time in Arsenal.
Also, his work with the German national team.
Podolski in the German national team.
He's also my mom's favourite player.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Mina's mom absolutely adores Podolski, so you'll have to bear with her on that front. I want to talk about Hertha Berlin staying up, because you mentioned there, Babel goes and they appoint a very young, inexperienced manager to replace him. And yes, pedants out there in the Twitter sphere, I am speaking in paradoxes. Tell us about it.
Yeah, obviously Otto Rehhagel. Well, I mean, first it was Michael Skibbe who came in and proceeded to lose every match he was in charge of, which was just a complete and utter failure. And obviously, I think any lingering morale that might have been in that team was completely destroyed by that run of matches. Then you bring in Otto Rehhagel, who does his job in the fact that he shifted the focus away from the players and onto himself, which was a positive. But really, on the pitch, he had very little effect. A lot of the things that he tried to implement were slightly outdated, as you'd imagine.
Well, he's only 96 years old, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just a few years old, you know, nothing too, you know, inexperienced or anything. But it just didn't quite work out as well as they wanted it to. In the end, it was just about enough to survive for now. Obviously, in Germany, we've got the playoff system, where Hertha Berlin will now play the third-place team from the second division to battle it out for a Bundesliga spot next season. And obviously Hertha, being the Bundesliga side in that tie, are the favourites. But Dusseldorf are one to watch out for. They do play some lovely football at times, and you know it could be tighter than people expect it to be. But I think everyone is hoping that Hertha will stay up. And as you say, it's been a bit like Köln in the fact that it's been a calamitous season. but they've done just enough in the end to stay up, and they'll thank their lucky stars, I think, by the end of the playoff relegation battle as well.
James Thurgood, Bundesliga.com, thank you so much for joining us. It's funny, Mina, I love this whole playoff thing for promotion. I mean, well, for me, goal difference is foolish, head-to-head is foolish. Whenever teams are equal on points, you should always resolve it with a playoff. But
I agree, actually. I think it's a great idea.
But what's your take on the playoff, sort of the third bottom side in the top flight, playing off against the third place team from the second flight?
As in, do I think it's a good idea?
Yeah.
I think it's a brilliant idea because then you get to see who really deserves to be in the top league. Sometimes, most of the time you see these teams promoted from the second division, and they're just sort of not really worthy of that place. And then you see that maybe perhaps aside there are certain moments that you feel like they've been hard done by against teams. This is an exact head-to-head to see who really deserves to be at the top.
What I love too is just the different mindsets that you would get if you had something like that, because you'd obviously have the top flight team that's been struggling and fighting and backs to the wall all season,
and the other team that's
been coasting, flying, super confident. Something to think about if you're listening there, Mr. Scudetto.
Freiburg, what do you think of them now? Do you remember when we started the season, you were like, oh, I don't really think that they're that great. Do you think that they're great now?
Well, selling their top scorer halfway through the season and avoiding the drop. Well done.
Mini Mönchengladbach.
Well, he's steady there. And I don't know who the Marco Royce is. We're going to be back in a little bit when we'll be speaking some Français.
Hello and welcome back to the World Football Show. I'm still Mina Rzouki and I'm still joined by Gabriele Marcotti. Now we move to La France. And of course, Montpellier are still in the lead. They reclaimed their spot. PSG is still 3 points behind. I'm just going to ask you quickly, do you think PSG will manage, or is this Montpellier's title?
Montpellier's final game, I think, or the next game is against Lille. Lille have nothing to play for. They've captured third place. You just hope that Rudy Garcia, they're going to go out there to play and entertain. I actually think Montpellier, they kind of owe something to Lady Luck, certainly with that win over Rennes. I think everything kind of broke their way, but, I guess who's not going to back the underdog against big bad Paris Saint-Germain?
What, 2 million spent over the summer? We're going to be chatting to Matt Spiro, freelance football journalist and commentator. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thank you.
Do you think that they owe it to luck, or what would you say? Did Montpellier deserve to be 3 points ahead?
I don't think teams win the league title through luck. I think Montpellier
the particular game yesterday.
Oh, yesterday they played very well. I mean, it wasn't a wonderfully sort of spectacular, free-flowing game of football. It really is when Rennes are involved. They're quite a strong athletic team. But Montpellier were really, really solid. They were professional. There was a lot of pressure on them because PSG won the night before, and there was a lot of talk with the spat between Younes Belhanda and some of his teammates, and the fact that Belhanda wasn't there because he's now suspended. And they coped very well without him. Remy Cabella came in, another young playmaker, looked really good, and their youth academy has really been one of the reasons, because they're producing so many good players. Obviously Belhanda's one of them, but Cabella as well yesterday, Stambouli, some really good young players, and they absolutely deserve to be top of the league.
Matt, I mean the most recent round was Belhanda against Olivier Giroud, and most people's instinct is to say, look, Belhanda's out of control, and I guess maybe we like to praise Giroud because he speaks well and he's educated.
Yeah, but it's really unfair.
It is unfair, but what I want to get to you, though, because Belhanda, I've only seen him play, you got a better perspective. Is this guy a nut? Like, is this guy some kind of, like, demented Adel Taarabt in the future?
Not at all.
Or is he a reasonable, or is he a reasonable guy who's just, got a bit excited?
Passionate.
He's a young guy. This is his first season in the spotlight. His first season really. He's a regular with Montpellier. He's done incredibly well, and I think that's why his outburst took everyone by surprise, because he wasn't seen as being an out-of-control, egotistical guy. He was seen as being a fairly, grounded team player who had this great relationship, we thought, with Olivier Giroud. I mean, there were one or two signs in the past. They argued about a penalty once in the past as well, but No, it was kind of weird, and I think it was Belanda's frustration because he knew he was missing the rest of the season. There's a fair chance, I think, that he's going to leave Montpellier this summer, and he was coming out and saying, look, my best chance of leaving as a champion is gone because Olivier Giroud decided not to take a penalty.
But doesn't he have a point? I mean, I want to refer back to that game. Shouldn't Giroud step up? I mean, he did say at the time it's because he wasn't feeling very secure enough in the sense that he missed that penalty. What are you looking at me?
Well, Giroud has shown his sort of maturity as well by saying, I'm not going to reply to Belanda. I'm not going to talk about this until the end of the season because I don't want it to disrupt us anymore.
Which was the right thing to do, yeah.
No, I think Belanda totally has a point, but you don't come out and say that 3 games before the end of the season when you're clear at the top and in a great position to win the league title, because it really does show that there was you know, a real after effect, really negative effect from that 2-2 draw with Evian.
Well, I looked at you funny, Mina, because I think the worst thing you can do is go and take a penalty if you genuinely don't feel up for it. But
yeah,
I think
the thing is,
when you want.
Belhanda would have taken it, but he assumed Giroud was going to take it, and he looked round and suddenly saw Suleiman Camara had the ball, because Giroud and Belhanda take it in turns to take penalties. Belhanda had already taken one in that game and scored, and he was assuming Giroud was going to take it. And he was surprised, went to see Camara and said, look, are you sure you want to take it? Camara said yes, so he said okay, and then there was a big punch-up, and the rest is history.
Well, you know what, Matt, Yunus, Belhanda, Mina, you know, as my teacher told me back when I was 8 years old, you don't assume because it makes an ass out of you and me. But over at the other end, Paris Saint-Germain, obviously, everybody's going to go and laugh at them if they don't win the title. They'll probably laugh at them even if they do win the title because they've spent so much money and they got rid of Comboiré when he was first on the table. Is there a sense in France where that Lille have nothing to play for? Lille probably aren't too bothered. They'd rather, you know, if Montpellier or Paris Saint-Germain win the title, that they're not really going to present stern opposition? Or is that just a ready-made excuse that Paris Saint-Germain
I don't think it's fair to say Lille have got nothing to play for, because I think they still consider they got a chance. I mean, I know that 5 points with 2 games to play is a big gap, but if they beat Montpellier, you know, Montpellier play Auxerre in the final game. Auxerre are going to be fighting for their lives. There's a chance that all 3 teams could end up on 77 points. I think Lille have still got a chance, and you know, very much an outside chance, but they're also playing to finish second, which means, you know, you don't have to play a Champions League playoff. So they do have something to play for. They're playing really well, and I think there's no suggestion at all that they're going to take it easy against Montpellier. Although last night a lot of people were saying Rennes didn't really try hard against Montpellier, and they're going to go to Paris Saint-Germain next weekend. And if Rennes suddenly turn in a big performance, there'll be a lot of question marks.
There will be indeed. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, Matt. You've been brilliant. We hope to speak to you soon.
Cheers, Matt.
That is all we have time for today, unfortunately.
Oh, no, I wanted more
no
time
more
with
little
Matt.
digs at me.
Little digs. This is all about
you.
you.
Always have little digs at
you know, for those who don't know, Mina was so excited today.
Yeah.
And she actually brought in a little prop, which is now off camera because you're a bit too embarrassed.
Yeah, a little bit.
She's not a Juventus fan by any means, but she did bring this wonderful Juventus scarf in just to celebrate their achievement.
Yeah, I did. Next week, you might see me wearing something special.
She's shy.
I am a little bit shy, but anyway, that is indeed all we have time for. But please do join us next week. It's still going to be Gab and I. We're still going to be chatting football, so please don't miss it. Next time, same place, same football chat. I'll see you then. Take care.